Welcome to Storycomic Presents, where we interview amazing storytellers and artists. This is episode 528. I'm your host, Barney Smith of Storycomic.com. My guest today is Alan Barillaro, an author, illustrator, and Academy Award-winning filmmaker whose work moves between cinematic storytelling and richly illustrated books for young readers. Alan is back in the world of Bunns Rabbit with his upcoming sequel, Bunns Rabbit II, The Return of the Spirit Rabbit, out October 6th. This book continues the journey of Bunns, a small rabbit who returns from her quest to find the spirit fox, hoping life can finally become quiet again. But Fox has other plans. A war is coming, the spirits of the sea and the wind against the spirits of the land and fire, and according to Fox, one creature standing in the way is Bunns herself. What makes the story such a strong conversation is that it has all the things kids love: spirit animals, danger, big quests, and dramatic artwork. But underneath that, it's about being asked to grow before you feel ready. It's about a small character carrying an impossible responsibility and how adventure stories can help young readers think about courage, belonging, and what it means to step into a role you never asked for. Alan, how you doing?
Great. Thanks for having me. This is a lot of fun. Already, even in the pre-talk, I'm like having a blast. So I'll try to be professional now and not laugh too much, but it's really great to be here.
Excellent. So for listeners meeting Bunns for the first time, how would you describe the pitch for the series?
You think coming from film, I'd be good at pitches, but I'm not. For me, it really, I would probably pitch it as what's most striking about it to me is it's a hybrid graphic novel and chapter book is what I was really intending to be, heavily illustrated. Over 300 illustrations, and that was really the impetus for the story, to pull kids at that kind of important age to want to read chapter books as well and take on a lot of prose. So that was really coming from my own family of 3 kids and noticing the skipping of chapter books, or maybe just bedtime reading with 3 kids, all different readers. I wanted something that kind of filled that hybrid gap so that when kids are done, they go, wow, I just read 30,000 words and I can tackle a chapter book. I love graphic novels. To me, it's great to jump around. And I was coming from film. I was like, why choose? So that's my pitch for that is that's the type of series I wanted. This little something for everybody, adventure, some drama, kind of what I love in movies, but I also love in literature, a lot of prose, but also a lot of fun stuff for me to draw.
and so do folks have to have read the first book in order to understand what's happening in the second book?
No. They could. It definitely helps, and it sets up a lot of who Bunns is in her mythology. But I tried to be sure there was a nice synopsis to understand, and that this kind of adventure she's going to go on is a new thing. Like I would say, the first book is, finding yourself when you're younger and finding belonging, and my difference is accepting that. And then when you go to the second book, it's now she's been charged with this responsibility. So it's a little bit more, I would say, mature in what she has to then tackle. It could be read separately as well.
What would you say then, like the synopsis is for book 1 for those that might be interested in checking out book 1 before the sequel comes out?
Sure. In book 1, Bunns is this rabbit is born with small ears in a world where all that rabbits have really long ears, and difference is a major problem there. It's a very superstitious warren that she's born into, and with a lot of mythology that's mixed. So very quickly, Bunns is about to run away, and she's chasing a wish to change herself from this powerful spirit fox. And then the adventure begins, and she's kind of leaves the meadow into this great forest and learns this kind of epic world. So I wrote the books together so that there's a lot of Easter eggs in book 1 that pay off in book 2, drawings that you might not know who that character is yet, but they'll show up. But I'm planting a lot of what's to come for this little rabbit. Yeah.
That's awesome. Now, uh, how do you balance epic fantasy stakes with a story young readers can emotionally follow?
Well, maybe, you know, I think it's one of those things. Maybe coming from Pixar and that always being the challenge that you want a little something for everybody. I loved reading books when I was a kid that I would understand it at a certain level, but then I would go back to it again and again and still do as an adult and go, wow, that's what that was about, or this extra level. So I guess that's always been storytelling to me, that you want to look at it through different lenses of what you get through it. And I love stories that are not so on the nose. There's a lot of, implied of what might happen for a reader to engage in and wonder about, and then interpret themselves and kind of play out. And there's a bit of that in Bunns, so that hopefully every age kind of has something interesting. But I also read it to kids, and like my own kids, or test. Sometimes you don't know, you kind of have to rehearse it a little bit and go, okay, that was a little dark. Like on my
Mm.
short film. We would do that at the studio at Pixar as an animator. You play a scene and you think it's going to be hilarious, and then someone's kids at the studio today, and you bring them into dailies where we show the animation, and the child doesn't laugh. You're like, okay, move back to the drawing board. Thought that joke was going to play a little better. So there's a little bit of that I think is natural, or at least I think I find very valuable.
And so that kind of gets to my next question about like their spirit, as we said, their spirit animals and elemental forces. And that those concepts can get big pretty fast. So how did you kind of keep that mythology grounded for kids?
For me, it's this. That stuff is secondary to caring about the character. I
Mm.
love the character first, and and how Buns relates to it is everything. So she kind of drives it in her stakes, and how personally that might be happening in the background. But right now, how she interacts with it, we want to be through her eyes, is how I tried to spend my focus. Yeah. So we're,
Mm.
and that's always helpful, because you're also discovering the world through the character's eyes, which is always more fun to me than let the narrator stop and tell you what this is all about, and kind of discover it with her.
And so how did you put this together? Did you work on like a kind of like a script Bible in a way? Did you kind of do some world building aspects to this, or did you just have character first, or did you have like a theme first, or like a world first that that you jumped from?
Yeah, that's a great question. A little bit of everything, because it was my first book, honestly. Even though I had another novel come out before this, Where the Water Takes Us. This was actually, I had just finished at Pixar on a short film called Piper, which is a little bird that was scared of the waves, and I wanted to move into a larger story. Because I draw, I like drawing, and that helps me think, just like in my sketchbook. So there's like some thinking process there, where I found that to be my back and forth, where I might write a little bit, but then a sketch will push the story and go, well, how do I get there? That's really interesting. Now that's something I want to get to. And then vice versa. It's not the most efficient way. I mean, traditionally, and that was a real challenge on this book to take on, which was, you lock a manuscript and then you usually illustrate it. And I didn't see that for this project. This project had to be back and forth. So it meant a lot of extra editing and shifting, but I feel like it pays off. I will say that I had to know where I was going for book two to finish book one. So there was writing even in tandem. But
Okay.
then I can even show you. Do I have any sketchbooks here? Oh, like my sketchbooks were all this big for Bunns Rabbit, because kids sometimes ask, here's just the book.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
and the reason I did this is not, there's a lot of times where artists are like, what kind of paper do you use? And is it the best and the nicest pen? And because you're a professional, you've made all these decisions. And for me, it's like this is a soft cover, small little book that fits in my pocket. And that's,
Mm.
and my kids were young at the time. I'm going to baseball games, soccer games. I'm just trying to fit in a sketch here or there at a coffee shop between working on a movie and that's how I made the book. There's little notes, and like there's even baseball practice, and that's something from book two. That's while I'm working on book one. So I am constantly, something that didn't make it, that'll show up in another book. Like you're just drawing and thinking and planning. So life goes on. I don't try to create a perfect environment as an artist and say, okay, now time to get creative, that just scares me, and then I don't work and I get panicked. I love to just go when I was a kid. I'm going to make up something in my head. Oh, isn't that cool? Similar, authors, good authors should be good readers, and artists are the same. And you want to be. You're always half of your brain is the reader too, going, well, I know you're really excited about that, but that's super boring. I just, and then you have to change it again. But I put together outlines and I put the whole book up to pitch it, and then I would refine. But that also meant throwing out hundreds of drawings. But you have to remember that's what we do in animation too. You would animate a scene, so 24 drawings in a second. If you did 3 seconds a week as a professional, that's pretty good. At the time that I was doing maybe 5. So many controls and computer animation at Pixar, like 4,000 in a character. So you do that and you block out your scene, and the director sees and go, well, maybe we'll change it. And then you do it again. So I brought that kind of methodology, which I think really works. Like you watch a film like WALL-E, it's very pantomime acting. You have to practice that, get up on stage, try it, refine it, just like vaudeville that they did in vaudeville. And then that final performance is not really our first performance, it's our 12th. And I bring that kind of methodology, whether I like it or not. I wish I could do it in one, but it's just that's not how it goes for me.
So how different then is the original script that you wrote as compared to the finished product then?
It's different. It's, the themes are there. It's more like you keep refining what I'm trying to say. And I think that's, to me, a lesson I learned from directors I was under, where, if you feel like you've got the core of your story and how to get that, like, what does it mean to be different? And you want to chase that, how is she going to overcome it? What are the details of that? The specifics can change until you feel like you got the right combination. But I think where you get into trouble is where everything's changing, and then you don't know what you're saying as a story. So I usually just try to drill down on what this is about. And with Bunns, I mean, it's a reason it's a rabbit. It's, in a world that's very dangerous, in this fantastical world where everything's at stake. The most unlikely hero to me is one who has, this rabbit has a lot of empathy for others. So it's the hero I wanted in a story right now of in this divisive, fantastical world. How could possibly this bunny stand up to all these gods and all this power? What could she do? And that to me is really at the heart of book 2, and kind of the impetus of the whole book series.
And so I'm kind of curious too, because you mentioned that you worked in Pixar. I'm fascinated by picking animals as the theme instead of saying like fantastical creatures or humans or robots. So what made you decide to make your characters animals?
I don't know if I have a real clear answer myself of why. When my first film, I made a sandpiper. I grew up in Canada. I loved NFB and nature documentaries. Like, if I look at what I loved and the literature I loved, and Call of the Wild, and all these stories about nature, and my sister just sent me the 5 True Horse Stories, this book. It was so it really always grabbed me. I so identified with those stories in a way that probably brought me towards animation, and then when you get to remember seeing Fox and the Hound in the theater. So it's a big part of that trajectory for me, where, all the kids' books I loved, not that I didn't love other stories, but it really hooked me. And when I got to do my own, I leaned that way. And it's almost one of those things where other artists tell you about it. Other people go, hey, did you notice, by the way? And and you go, oh, I didn't know. And that, I find that interesting, because when you're a younger artist, I don't know how about you, but you're so worried about your style, and when you get older and more experienced, you go, oh, that's the last thing I worry. It comes out naturally. Right. You don't have to manufacture it. You just, what you're trying to express, your own thoughts, your own feelings, what you want to say out in the world, that it'll shape it. So I kind of focus on that.
Well, hey there. If you're enjoying our podcast, don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or leave us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast platform. Your support means the world to us and helps us keep this show going. We love hearing from you, so any feedback is welcome. And thank you for being a part of our podcast family and for all your support. It truly means a lot to us. Is this story about destiny or choice?
Oh, it's, she's destined to be this god, to help, this demigod in a sense. Um, but the choice to be a citizen in the world, much like a kid, and what you do with that, now that I've accepted myself, what kind of person will I be out in the world, to bring it, um, that to look at it that way is really what I'm after. She has choices she can make. She does not have to accept these things. But what do you do? What do you do, if you can help? If What kind of citizens of the world do you want to be? It's that kind of view to me, I had on it. So there are choices, definitely, and hard choices for her. In a sense, she's been this poor little rabbit. She's been burdened with this problem that she didn't ask for, and this gift that is a problem, right? And how she's judged for it, and then what's asked of her in the second book is enormous. So how could she do it, and how could she say no? And I feel that sometimes there's that feeling of the future being daunting. How do we tackle it? Do we have the confidence? How do we do it together? Similar. These are themes that I cover in nature, from Piper, to Where the Water Takes Us. Is I don't feel we're above nature in the way that we are. We're connected to it, and we belong to it. So I care about stories that echo that, as much as possible. And it's less of a selfish arc, in the sense of the hero's journey's arc for story structure is always how I and how I did all this, and I think with my work I'm trying to propose it's a lot about how we're all connected, and we might not have the solution, but it's how we all respond together that's more interesting to me.
Did Bunns, when you're writing the script for this, writing it out, I say script, but like
Yeah,
when you're writing
yeah, 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 yeah.
um, did
I'm
did she
bilingual. We can talk
yeah
movies and all.
did she go in a different direction you weren't planning, and you're like, well, I guess this is where the story's going?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
That you want to have a little bit of a plan where it's going, but I found myself, if I know too much of what's happening, it's going to get stagnant and boring. And if you can see where it's headed, like, oh, I'm such a clever writer, this is coming next. The audience, the reader's 10 times smarter than you and way ahead of you. And we talk a lot about that in film. It's when and what shot are you ahead or behind the audience,
Right.
and yeah. So I kind of like to kind of know where I'm headed, very roughly, but then you could take a right turn and just go, wow, because I love that feeling in a book where you go, where is this going? I have to. And what people don't realize is I feel like artists do that all the time. And that's actually the joy of making books. You put yourself into those same problems and go, I don't know how I'm going to get out of this. I really don't know. I made myself into a corner. And I think the best movie moments that have happened, I could go through like where you go, that's what that, I would sit, in a film like with Brad Bird, director of Incredibles and Iron Giant, like writer director, or Andrew Stanton as a writer director who just has Toy Story 5 coming out, and so many. I would, as an animation supervisor, I'd watch how they would work, and to me, there's that magic of putting yourself in those kind of planned but not too planned. The
Right.
surprise of it, oh, what if, and you're in the room with sometimes like, what if this happened? And you want that in books. I love feeling that. Even my picture book, it's like today will be eaten right off the bat. What's what's going to happen? These bugs are going to be eaten. They crash from a storm into a river, and they're done. They're floating on their backs, waiting to be eaten. And it's what happens next is the surprise. I hope feels right to reader.
Right.
But I won't know until they read it and see how it does.
But in a way too, I remember I had Catherine Patterson on, the one who wrote A Bridge to Terabithia, and she said something pretty powerful. She said, as soon as you write a book and it's published, it doesn't belong to you anymore.
You're right. Yeah,
It
100%.
belongs to the reader. So, what do you hope the reader gets from your stories?
Yeah, you it's a story. So at the first time, I don't want to make such too grand of a proclamation, because you want them to enjoy it and be
Mm,
taken on a journey and feel like, I do love stories that tell tell a story. I want them to believe in the world and this character. That's how I would really like you. I hope you care for this little rabbit like no other rabbit, and go, what is she going to do next? And think about the world. And I try to make a world as rich as possible.
right.
Um, that's really interesting. But I love that quote that you mentioned, because it's true. When you do feel like once it's out, it's something else now, and you're even removed from it, in the sense of like, I wonder, it doesn't belong to you anymore, and you can just react,
Right.
and listen to how others are reacting to it.
Now, so we mentioned too is like there's a lot of illustrations in this, but it's not a picture book; it's a chapter book.
Yeah, yeah, middle grade, the 8 to 12. But I try to spread that out. There's on my website. I've left excerpts so you can even read like the first 4 chapters of each book,
Mm.
in there if anybody's interested. Um, but but it's really really fun.
Now, remind so with this. All right, this is what I love. I love timestamp. So people want to learn more about you, Alan. They can go to your website, Alan. Gosh darn it.
AlanBarillaro.com.
Yeah. Yes. All
Yeah.
right. So it's Alan at BARILLARO.com. And so are you gonna are there's gonna be more? I know the second book hasn't come out yet as of this recording, but is this gonna be a continuous series that you're gonna be working on?
It's once you're in a world so deeply, it's hard not to think of more. And yeah, I have more. I think they've been such big undertakings. Right now with book 2, I'm really interested to see. To me, it's a bit of a moment to let readers react and see if there's an interest. I have an interest, and I love the characters, um, and I certainly want to make Bunns. And I have ideas and drawings. I, I don't know. This is one of those things where the line, but right now there's nothing to be published yet, as far as do I have anything in the works.
Right.
But that to me is, it's just like being at the studio when there's a good idea for a sequel of a film. You run with it if you feel like if it's worthy enough. If it's not,
Right.
if it falls flat, so it's kind of nice to work on that, and see what happens. But I
Well,
really am anxious to see what the readers think.
yeah, I mean, because you have like great creative energy to yourself. So I know the answer to this. Even though if you don't know what I'm going to ask you, but I already know the answer, so I'm going to ask you anyway. Is there other mediums you're going to do with this, like board games? Like there's like card, like other things that you're going to be
Yeah,
doing with this?
I would love to. I mean, there's even like a plushie behind me. I've always wanted to make a little plushie. I can go
Yeah.
grab it. I love. Yeah, I think as an artist, it's a very strange thing these days to pick one thing and say, "Hey, you're only an animator. You're only a writer. You only painted in watercolor." Like we get pigeonholed so quickly, and you're like, "Wait, what? I want to do all these things." So any opportunity, making films and TV shows. I try to keep it as loose as I can and more as fun. I
Okay.
think there's practical limitations to things where it's like, okay, how much time do I have in the day, and what resources and what opportunities are there? But I try to be prepared for those opportunities, or just for fun,
Right.
write that out. And you can see on my website how much I like to animate Buns. So, the movie version is always in my head, but I don't know about you, but just as I'm thinking of an idea, there's a cartoon in my head, probably too often. Get on the psychiatrist's couch here, but a lot of cartoon the visual images come to me very quickly about how that kind of feeling.
Yeah. So if people want to learn more about you and your work, Alan, they can go to alanbarillaro.com.
They can, yeah, and I'll keep that updated as I go, or as we go, learn more as we go. Yeah,
Right.
I have an Instagram account too, but I'm a terrible poster of those things, and I really don't know how social media works. I'm,
And I gotta say, I love your website because you have a little butterfly that follows the
oh,
mouse around.
thank you.
Man.
It pays to have a brother-in-law who's an amazing web designer, And
Yeah.
there's even a trailer. I did a little movie trailer for Bunns, little small little thing. But there's if you click somewhere, you'll see the
I think
trailer
I
for it.
saw that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Bunns.
so and
Yeah,
that's
I
with
saw some.
that's has
Yeah.
even has a lot of fancy talent from some of the film world that helped me out here and there. Some
And
prints.
people can actually go in there and they can purchase some of your original artwork and prints as well.
That's right. That's right. With Nucleus and my new picture book that's coming out. Yeah, we're working on a little some clothing stuff. I don't know. It's fun, just fun to play around in these kind of things and stickers and bookmarks. Yeah, the prints today will be eaten. We're going to do a little print run as well through Nucleus. Nucleus Gallery is a fantastic gallery for anybody who's interested in a lot of wonderful illustrators and people that bounce between the book world and the film world. They're wonderful supporters of us. So you can usually find affordable print of their work there. It's really, really great place.
Right. Cool. Excellent. Alan, this is exciting. And listen, you're going to have to come back on when Return of Bunns the Rabbit comes out.
Yeah. No, thank you. I'd love to be back. It's been such a pleasure chatting. Thanks, man. This is so much fun.